The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Reaper Apparel Company. Reaper Apparel offers a casual line of superb fit, finish, and comfort. We design for those who refuse to die slowly and choose to live untamed. For those who aren't afraid to face the dark, for the ones that thrive in it, and for those who can appreciate life through a grim lens. That's Reaper Apparel Company. Go to the link in the description of this episode, use the promo code Mike Bono, and get 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Tactical Brotherhood, all American-made apparel, which helps support the Second Amendment. You can also find all this in the description of this episode with the link Tactical Brotherhood. Part of every proceed does go to helping veterans. It is a very good cause. All American-made products made right here in Minnesota. Go and check them out. Use the promo code PATRIOT15 to get 15% off your purchase. The Ride Home Rants podcast wants to thank you for listening and let everybody know that we do offer monthly subscriptions to help support the show in other ways other than listening and downloading each episode. What you will get with each subscription is you will get bonus episodes that aren't released to everybody. You will also have a chance to ask me anything each and every month where I will put out a special episode just to answer your questions. You will also get more exclusive content that is not released to everybody. To subscribe to the show, go and click on the link in the description of this episode, and I look forward to your added support and to help us keep this show going. The Ride Home Rants podcast is also brought to you by Buddy's Beard Care. Buddy's Beard Care provides premium men's grooming products at an affordable price. Products are made in Ohio, and Buddy's Beard Care supports local. The majority of our supplies are from other Ohio-based companies. You can find them on social media at Buddy's Beard Care or online at buddysbeardcare.com. Use the promo code BONO15 and he will save you 15%. I've been using these products for a little over 6 months now, and my beard has never felt healthier. It has never grown faster, and according to my wife, it has never felt softer. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by former guest of the show in Matt Landowski in Sweet Hands Sports. Elevate their game with Sweet Hands Sports. Our sports gloves are designed for champions, providing ultimate grip and durability. Achieve greatness with every match. Choose Sweet Hands Sports for the winning edge. Grip your victory at sweethandsports.com. Use the promo code BONO10 and he will save you 10%. He has sent me a complimentary pair of golf gloves. They are so comfortable, durable, and breathable. You won't find a better pair of gloves out there. Again, sweethandsports.com, promo code BONO10. Lastly, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Deemed Fit, a clothing company from first responders for first responders. These products are so comfortable. They look great. They have great messages on them. They are provided to support first responders, especially those who worked through COVID. All of the proceeds are going to helping veterans and first responders with their mental and physical health. This is a great cause. I support anything that has to do with our first responders and our veterans. Again, deemedfit.co, promo code Mike Bono will save you 20%. Now, let's start the show.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Ride Home Rants podcast. This is your special guest host, Fiddy, and I'm filling in for Mike Bono today as we bring you the Super Bowl preview of the Chiefs and the Eagles in the rematch from a couple years ago. I have a great panel of guests who have come from all facets of football and sports backgrounds to talk to you today. First and foremost, make sure you peep all the sponsors in the pre-roll and the post-roll, as they're all small business owners and they're great supporters of this show. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce the legends on the call today, and they're going to break down this game. But guys, when you introduce yourselves, you're going to tell everybody what you do or what you've done, and then who's the most intense person you've ever coached with or played for. So, Bill Stoy, start us out.
What's going on, guys? Bill, like Fiddy just mentioned, currently a pharmaceutical sales rep. As far as Most intense coach I've ever been around. Definitely Coach Hurdley, our defensive coordinator, Austintown Fitch, when I played there. Got the best out of everyone, but definitely had the intensity to kind of put the little scared in you as well, which all good defensive coordinators do.
Jose? You're on mute, Jose.
There we go. Jose
Okay.
Jefferson. Currently, I'm the general manager of Florida International University. Paul's up. And probably the most intense person I mostly probably been around, and you'd be surprised, is probably Will McClay. That's executive vice president of the Cowboys right now, player personnel in the Arena League. He was intense, man. I mean, totally different than what he is now, but great guy. But it's just kind of weird to see him kind of mellow. So,
Okay. Kurt?
How's it going? Kurt Barth. I'm currently at Washington Community High School in Washington, Illinois. Most intense person I was around in football, I played for John Tully when I was at Eureka College as a student athlete. John was a very intense coach, very well in tune with everything that was going on, and he kept you on your toes.
Awesome. Mike?
Yes, Mike Worrell. I coached college basketball for many years at Ashland University in Ohio, College of Worcester in Ohio. I'm from Ohio. That's where I grew up. And then I was head coach at Illinois College 22 years and back east at Bethany College with Fiddy there. I was there for 4.5 years. And as a young assistant coach, I worked for several high-intensity head coaches. Roger Lyons at Ashland, I was with first, and he had played there for Bill Musselman, so he was a Bill Musselman clone. I was actually scared to death at least the first 3 or 4 months working for Roger, but after that, it was like one of the greatest experiences I ever had working for him. And then I was at College of Worcester with Steve Moore, regarded as one of the most intense college basketball coaches on any level, and he. I think third all-time winning. I think he's won 880 games, and he retired like 3 years ago. So I would say those two coaches that I work for.
Okay. And for everybody that doesn't know, Mike is the only basketball coach in NCAA history to have the slam dunk champion at any level, coaching at Division III, and having a Division III basketball team beat a Division I basketball team. So Mike is the only coach in NCAA history to accomplish that feat. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
And then finally, Hal.
Yeah, Hal Mumme. Currently I'm the president and head football coach of the San Antonio Caballeros in the soon to be known about International Football Alliance. We're playing developmental football in the summer for guys so they can get to the NFL or get back to the NFL. Kick off May 31st, and we play through the end of July. Check us out on TV. We'll have like 100 million TV sets in America. Lights Out Sports is doing us, so if you got that on your streaming, check it out on that. We're also in Mexico, Australia, New Zealand, and parts of Europe and South America. So it'll be pretty good publicity for these guys. Anyway, most intense person, of course, I've been the head coach. Everybody would say I was the most intense, probably, but besides me or Mike Leach, I think Jeff Snedeker, who was my middle linebacker at Kentucky in the late 90s, and Snedeker, the first time I ever met him, walked in my office, sat down in a chair in front of me, looked me straight in the eye, and said, "I'm the best linebacker on your team." This is when I first got the job. And he turned out he was right. And then a couple of years later, we're trying to get to the first New Year's Day bowl game they'd been to in 50-something years. And we're playing Mississippi State. And we're playing at Mississippi State. And Mississippi State has a quarterback named Wayne Madkin, who was a great athlete, but not a great passer. So the whole week, I impressed upon him, just keep him in the pocket and make him throw. And it's a really close game. It goes back and forth. And towards the end of the game, Wayne gets forced out of the pocket. and Snedeker's hunting him down on the sidelines. And I'm screaming at him, just push him out of bounds, just because their backup quarterback was a great passer. And we only had a 2-point lead in this game. It's the fourth quarter. And so I'm screaming at Snedeker, don't hit him, just push him out of bounds. Oh, of course not. Oh, no. We take him out at the thigh. Poor Wayne's laying there on the sidelines about 3 feet from me, and I'm looking at him going, come on, Wayne, get up. You're okay. You can do it. Get up. They hauled him off the field. They put Matt Wyatt in, who is kind of a famous radio guy around Mississippi now. And Matt Wyatt proceeded to pick us apart for about a 75-yard drive, and they kicked a field goal on the last play of the game, and Jackie Sherrill beat me by 1 point. So Jeff was very, very intense. And the great thing about Jeff is he lives near all you guys over there. He's a brilliant businessman and really a great guy. We went fishing in Alaska a few years ago. But a great guy. Jeff Snedeker, he's from Ohio, played at Kentucky, and really, really an intense player.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I would say for myself, probably the most intense person I've ever been around is former Bethany head football coach Tim Weaver. Tim came from the Division I level, came down to a Division III level, where Bethany was 1-27 combined. The 3 years before I got there, we went 4-6 my first year, and he willed us to 4 wins, 4-6, 4-6, 3-7, 3-7, winning 14 games during my time there. So definitely one of the most intense people I've ever met, but a great mentor to myself. So we're here to talk about the Super Bowl. We have the rematch from 2 years ago with the Chiefs and the Eagles kicking off this Sunday, and this show will preview on Saturday, so it'll give everybody about a day and a half to listen to this and get ready for the game. So we're going to start with you, Bill, on this. Who is that one person on either side of the ball, coach, player, whatever it is, who is the X factor in this game?
I guess I'll take the easy one. We'll say Patrick Mahomes. I think he's the ultimate difference maker, ultimate equalizer. You look at the roster, I think a lot of people would say Eagles probably got a pretty loaded roster, but Mahomes can do a Mahomes thing. So I'll take the easy one off the board and go with him.
Okay. Jose, would you agree with that, or would you pick somebody else as the X factor?
No, Saquon Barkley all day long. I mean, most rushing yards, NFL history, period. I mean, they don't stop to run. He's going to run all over them. And I think the Chiefs, their front's good, their defense is good, but I just think with that combination with Hurts, but he's just playing outstanding football. And if he doesn't get the NFL MVP, I don't know what an MVP is. I just don't.
Gotcha. What about you, Coach Barth? Who are you picking on this?
I agree with Jose. I think if the Eagles can keep Barkley relevant in the game, meaning they're running the football and controlling the clock a little bit, and they can keep him engaged and effective, I think they've got an excellent shot. But I think he's the key for them to be able to stay in the game and have a shot to win.
Okay. What about you, Mike? What are you saying?
Being a Marty Schottenheimer disciple, I'm going to say off the cuff, the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line is the X factor. I know Barkley's great, and I love watching him run. But the Eagles, and I couldn't tell you one of their guys' names on that offensive line, but they must be pretty darn good. And if they can control that line of scrimmage and they can run the ball, I like the Eagles.
Okay. Coach Mumme, who would you say is the X factor in this?
Well, I think Mahomes is the X factor, but he's the X factor because of what everybody else has already said. Because if the Eagles' offensive line can control line of scrimmage and Saquon can have a big day, that makes Jalen Hurts a wild card. So I don't know if I'm picking Mahomes or Hurts. It's either, if the Chiefs can stay in it and be relevant, then it's going to be because of Mahomes. If the Eagles dominate like they did against the Commanders, it's going to be because of Hurts, because of Barkley, because of the O-line. So that's the way I see it.
Okay. And we're going to go back to you, Bill, on this. I'm curious about this because as all being, former college athletes or high school players or administrators, I want to get your take on this. So the game is in New Orleans, right? So we know it's in the Dome. Okay. In your opinion, do you like the Super Bowls being in the domes or warm weather climates only, or should they be playing these in cold climates as well? We've all played in cold games. I know Coach Mumme's coaching all types of weather. Coach Barth has played in the cold. Jose's played in the warmth though, inside the domes in the Arena League. I've played in some brutal outside games. I want to get your guys' opinion on this though. Should this always be in domes? Should it always be in warm weather? Or should they put it in the cold weather? Bill, what do you say?
Maybe I'll be the new school guy on this, but I like it how it is. You take away I don't want to say excuses, but you obviously put a lot of different factors into it. I think a lot of times through the playoffs, you'll get weather games on both sides. So definitely a chance to have to prove it that way as well. But I like the last game being warm weather, make sure, in a dome, something like that. Nothing outside really taking too much factor into it. So I'm sure some other people disagree, but I like it how it is.
Okay. What would you say, Jose?
I'm an arena guy. You know me. I want perfect. I want perfect conditions, and they put enough money into it that it should be the best game of the season, not only by stature but by weather as well too. Make the conditions as best as you can, and that way, the loser doesn't have an excuse, or nobody has an excuse except for they just got outplayed or whatever the case may be. But like I said, it's best conditions possible. That's just how I see it.
Okay, fair coming from the arena guy. So, what about you, Coach Barth? What do you say on this?
Yeah, I guess I agree with that. The fair weather is always, it kind of keeps things balanced. Although I think it would be interesting at times to see, teams battled out in the snow, and it would cause some teams that are maybe play one dimensional, or you can't be one dimensional, right? So. If a team gets stuck with that, you just see how they adapt. So that would be the intriguing part of it. But for the fans' perspective and all that, I think that there would be some fan bases that would love to be sitting in the cold weather. But I think overall, for the game conditions to be set, I think benefits the game and everyone involved. So,
gotcha. What do you say, Mike Worrell?
For the NFL, for the fans and extracurricular activities, events for Super Bowl, they want it in warm weather sites, so that's fine with me. But I agree with Coach Barth. It would be interesting to see a game every once in a while, natural elements outside, and see how teams adapt to that.
What do you say, Hal, on this one?
Well, I remember back to what was it, 2017 or 18, when Denver had to go play in the Meadowlands, and we had a
horrible, it was about 10
Super
years
Bowl.
ago, something like that.
Yeah, it was about 8 or 10 years ago. But no, it was a horrible experience. I didn't even like listening to it on the radio. I was on the road at the time, but I agree with everybody. Just play it in the best possible. You don't want anybody to have an excuse. I think whoever said that was smart, and you got to think about the fans. Pro football is the entertainment business. So you got to think about that. And so I think they're doing a smart thing by having it in New Orleans. I think it kind of works against the Eagles a little bit because they've been used to playing these great.
Nope, I think we just lost Coach Mumme. So we'll come back to him on that, but he left it as great, so we'll see. So I'm going to answer this one. Actually, I want to see it in the cold weather, right? Because the thing is, right, if you're a football player, you have to be mentally tough, right? Yes, the money is great and the money fuels you, but eventually you got to find internal toughness for yourself to go battle through the elements, though, as well. And if you want to see how bad somebody wants that Super Bowl bonus and be a champion, go play in Buffalo or Cleveland right now, and you'll find out how tough you truly, truly are in that regard. So that's just my, opinion on it. I want to see guys be tough. I want to see the Ice Bowl happen again, and I want to see the Freezer Bowl happen again. That's what I want. And we got Coach Mumme back on.
Yeah, somebody tried to call me and it cut me out. But I was just saying, you got to think about the fans. You really do. And nobody wants to watch a 10-7 game in the freezing ice in Green Bay for a Super Bowl.
I would. I think that would be so much fun. I was just saying when you're off, I said, I want to see the Freezer Bowl. I want to see the Ice Bowl. I want to see that. I want to see the Freezer Bowl, negative 40-degree wind chills out there.
I'm old enough to remember that. And I'm also experienced enough to have played in a couple of those when I was at Wesley. And so I promise you, they're not as much fun as playing in the Dome in New Orleans.
That's funny. So I want to get your guys' take on this. A lot of us are coaches or former players or current coaches. So I want to get your opinion on this. I want to know what you think about Nick Sirianni and where he ranks right now in the NFL as a head coach. Is it top 5? Is it top 10? In 4 years, Sirianni has 4 playoff appearances. He has 5 wins in the playoffs, 2 Super Bowl appearances, and 2 NFC East titles. So in your opinion, where does Sirianni rank right now in the rankings of 32 NFL head coaches? Bill, what do you say?
Yeah, and honestly, I haven't put much thought into it, and maybe should have. But I'll say top 10. I think obviously the resume you just read off is worthwhile to be in that category. I wouldn't say top 5 yet. Let's see a little bit more. I think young in his career, some obvious kind of legends in the spot still. Obviously on the other side as well. But I think Sirianni, I would say top 10 and definitely good resume and great young coach with a lot of potential.
What about you, Jose?
Well, I would say a top 10 guy, but I mean, I think the great coaches, can do it in a lot of places. When you look at the Bill Parcells and the Andy Reids, when you can go anywhere and win with whomever. I think he's got a great start with Hurts and obviously they fell into a really good defense and now he's got Saquon Barkley. I'm sorry, the main coaching. I imagine the coaching script is don't screw it up. You don't have to get too creative, but yeah, definitely a top 10 guy. But he's in Philly, so it's one day they love you and next day they want to kill you. So it's a tough market, regardless of what he's going to do. I hate to see what's going to happen when he loses it. If he loses the Super Bowl, what they're going to say about him now. So, but good coach,
sure.
Really good coach.
Sure. What do you say, Kurt?
I would say certainly top 10 and certainly on the rise if they can win on Sunday. I think that keeps moving him up the ladder a lot. But yeah, I think his he's off to a great start and has worked well with the roster he's got. But to Jose's point, the elite guys can do it anywhere and work with the players that they have in those programs. So. But where he's at right now, he's certainly doing a fantastic job. And like I said, if he wins Sunday, he's definitely moving up.
What do you say, Coach Worrell?
Okay, I'm going to give you my standard controversial answer to this.
Oh God, I can only imagine. Whether
it's football, basketball, baseball, right now, Sirianni's according to the media, a top 3, top 5 coach. They have a nice roster on both sides of the ball. Some things are going their way. Next year at this time, he might not be in the top 10 the way things go. So for the time being, the media and everybody, he's a top 5 guy right now. He's in the Super Bowl. Why not? Next year, it could be a different story talking about him.
Valid. What do you say, Coach Mumme?
Well, I'm kind of like Coach Worrell. What did you just say? He's been in the NFC Championship game twice and the Super Bowl twice now.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to put him in the top 3 or so. But I will say this. Bill Walsh was a real good friend of mine. And his first 3 years in San Francisco, he was ready to jump off the Golden Gate Bridge. They didn't do anything. And then all of a sudden, they win 3 Super Bowls. So it's a long climb up this coaching deal, and you're only as good as your last day. we have a saying on our teams is just play the next play, and that's all we do. And so I think he's done a great job, and I hope he continues. I do think Sunday is a big day for him and Jalen Hurts, because you got Jalen going against Patrick. One of them could become the first guy to win 3 Super Bowls in a row, and the other one could become the guy to lose 2. So it's a bit of it's a really high mountain, and the fall is really great. So
Sure.
I wish him luck, and I think he's doing a great job. But that's this business. It doesn't get any softer.
Absolutely. And I think about this, and I go back to what Bill Parcells said, your record is who you are.
Yeah.
And that is exactly the truth. I think when you look at Sirianni, he's had a fantastic 4 years. I think he'll continue to do that. He's built the right way. I would say if you're looking at rankings, he has to be probably closer to top 5. I would say, with McCarthy being out now, you have to say it's Reed. For as much as I don't like him, I think he's so overrated. Tomlin is in there. Sirianni, Kyle Shanahan has to be in there as well with what he's done, and then probably you would say maybe John Harbaugh having the Super Bowl as well. Probably they're all probably in that mix somewhere with one another. But I always go back to what Bill Parcells said: "You're as good as what your record says you are." So, and he's the record says he's whatever 13-win team, 14-win team, and playing for a Super Bowl championship. But to Jose's point, I want to go back to this, and I'm going to get on my little tangent here, and then we're going to move on because it is Ride Home Rants. If I want to see the success of somebody do it over multiple teams, right? Like someone like Mike McCarthy did win with 2 teams, right? Bill Parcells won with 2 teams. The general Tom Coughlin won with 2 teams. Guys that can win with 2 teams, that's awesome. Sometimes you stay one place too long and it gets stale, and then you win, but you're not really winning, right? Because are you doing it with somewhere else? Are you drafting people to be successful and all those things? That's why I don't like Mike Tomlin, because Mike Tomlin has gotten stale. Sure, he wins. That's fine. But the other thing is, though, can Mike Tomlin win at that same rate with other teams? That's the thing. Mike Tomlin has not drafted a Hall of Famer. Bill Cowher drafted 6 Hall of Famers potentially 6 Hall of Famers that Mike Tomlin inherited. Mike Tomlin won a Super Bowl in his second year with 18 starters from Bill Cowher's led teams. So that's my tangent for the day about Mike Tomlin. We're going back to the Super Bowl, though. So, Bill, we're going to go with you on this one. Who wins this game and what's the score?
Ooh, getting to the hard-hitting questions now.
It's hard to follow up after my rant about why I don't think Mike Tomlin's good.
You're not wrong. And I don't disagree with you either. But as a Browns fan, going 500 might do something for me. We're quite underneath that. So maybe consistency isn't all that bad, Fiddy. But for the game prediction, I'm gonna say Mahomes gets it done and we go Chiefs. I don't think it's crazy high scoring. I think the defense is kind of show up. It'll be like a 24-21 Chiefs, somewhere in there.
Okay. Jose, what do you say?
Yeah, I think Philly's going to try to slow the game down with the run and try to piss pound them, and just beat the life out of that defense. But I just, Mahomes and Kelsey are kind of like the modern day Brady and Gronk. They stumble through the season, some good games, some bad games, and people, they're not the same. And they get to that playoff, man, and they just hit that button, and it's just they're different guys. Because if you look at Kelsey during the season, he's just an abomination. He really is, dropping passes, bad routes, missed blocks, and then he comes to the playoffs and he's got the cape on. So I agree. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring thing. I'd say it's like a 28-21 Chiefs win. Because I don't think Philly's going to want to get into a shootout with Mahomes. And I think they're going to try to slow it down with Saquon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you say, Coach Barth?
Yeah, well, I might be talking with my heart here, I think, but I'd like to see, I would say Philadelphia 27-24. To your point, it's been mentioned, I think that they try to grind it out and be efficient with their offense and, just try to keep the Chiefs offense off the field as long as they can. But I think ultimately it's going to come down to, them getting the run game established, taking care of the football. That's always going to be a key. Whoever makes the costly mistake, and every mistake can cost you, but if it costs you points, it's going to be a little bit more critical. So whoever can avoid that, but I'm going to go with Philly 27-24.
Okay. What do you say, Mike?
You're not going to like this answer, Fiddy. I've probably said this to you before, and we've argued and debated this. I coach a lot of games, basketball, close to 500. Coach Mumme's coached a lot of games. In my career, 40% to 50% have come down to the last minute or two.
Yeah.
The NFL is magnified even further in these playoff games where it's coming down to the end. One big play, one bad play, a bad call, something happens, your field goal kicker hits the upright.
Yeah.
And I've debated this with Fiddy, and in these games, fate comes into play a lot of times. I know both teams are prepared. All the coaches know what they're doing on that level, the college and pro level. And Fiddy doesn't agree with me when I say fate gets involved in a lot of these games at the end when crazy things happen, a big play or a big fumble. And I've lived that with the Browns all my life, bad things happening at the end. And with that being said, Fiddy, I'm going to take the Eagles 23-20 and a twist of fate, something happening in the last couple minutes to make that score 23-20.
Okay. Good one there, Mike. What do you say, Coach Mumme?
Well, I kind of agree with Jose and Mike both. I think this comes down to a will of quarterbacks. And you've got one guy who's won 2 Super Bowls and is already a Hall of Fame guy. And you got another guy that wants to be there. And the other guy has Saquon Barkley in the backfield. And I'm going to go with the Eagles, but I'm kind of like Mike. I'm like 23-21 or something,
Okay. I'm going to pick the Eagles on this. I got to pick the Eagles because, Sirianni is a Division III guy. He Mount Union guy. We've all kind of been around that small college game.
Sure.
There's a lot of great coaches that or have players who have transitioned to coaches from there. Bill Belichick, as well was a D3 guy. So I'm gonna pull for my D3 guy. And he went to Mount Union, so not far away from here. So I'm gonna pick the Eagles 21-17 in this, and Sirianni getting it done for all the D3 people out there. So that's gonna be kind of my pick on there. So Bill, I'm gonna go back to you on this, and after my rant about the coaches and Mike Tomlin not getting it done. Andy Reid has got it done, right? He's got it done with 2 teams. He's been to, I think, something like 9 AFC or NFC championship games during that time, multiple Super Bowls now with both teams. So in your opinion, Bill, and I know you're a little bit younger of the group here, where does Andy Reid rank right now for you? Is it top 5 all time? Is it top 10 all time as an NFL coach? What do you think?
Like you said, I definitely have not been around for some of the old head coaches, but obviously I've heard a ton about them and know the resumes. But I would say, obviously, in my opinion, definitely top 10. I think if we can add another Super Bowl here for Andy Reid, and I don't know if he's done anytime really soon, I think he can creep into top 5 range. Again, a ton of great coaches out there, been a long history in the NFL, but I think he's definitely one of the greats and definitely Hall of Famer, very, very likely.
Okay, but Jose, before I get to you, I'm gonna throw mine out here because I'm gonna bring back some of the old school for everybody. So I would say there's Belichick is one, and then I'm gonna just throw some other names out there. You have Chuck Noll, 4 Super Bowls in 6 years. You have Tom Landry, 29 years, 3 Super Bowls. I believe 6 appearances. You have Don Shula, NFL's all-time winningest coach ever. You have Curly Lambeau. You have Vince Lombardi. You have, guys of that stature as well. I would even say I would consider what Bill Cowher did during his time close to a top 10 coach. You have the general Tom Coughlin, the only guy to beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl twice. You have him. You have Mike Shanahan as well. You have Dan Reeves, who went to 4 Super Bowls. You have Marv Levy, who went to 4 Super Bowls as well. There's a lot of great, coaches out there that you can compare them with. So just throwing some of them names out there, for us, Hal's buddy, Bill Walsh. You have George Seifert as well. So Jose, where does Andy Reid fall in amongst all those guys?
So how do I follow that? Really? It's like, wow. I think he's a top 5 coach for a lot of reasons, but the main reason is because of the adjustments he had to have made off the field. Think about all those guys you mentioned who are awesome coaches. I lived through the 70s, through the Steelers and the 80s and the 49ers and the 90s with the Cowboys. But think about it. He's got to deal with social media. He's got to deal with cell phones. He's got to deal with gender identity. He's got to deal with all this stuff. And he did it for a long time. And a lot of the coaches you mentioned didn't have to deal with all that, and there's so many different, there's positions now, like my position at FIU. I'm a general manager at a FBS school. It didn't exist. He's at 60 some odd years old, 65 years old. He has lived through a lot of the changes of the game itself on and off the field, and it's been successful. And I don't know how many coaches can say that, that they've done it, and like you said, I think Chuck Noll, I was a Steelers fan in the 70s, just like everybody else, but they were all bing, 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 bing. And he spread his out over some time to where he had the suffrage in Philadelphia, man. He was the Buffalo Bills of the NFC. He couldn't get it done. And now he's in Kansas City. And like I said, living through social media and all the changes in this world, he's got to be a top 5 guy just because he's handled changes and adversities that not a lot of coaches have seen.
That's a great point on that. As society has changed and the game has changed and technology's changed, he's, one of those guys that's just adapted with that. Kurt, what would you say about that?
I'm glad Jose had to follow up that because he made a lot of very good points. I do think that, from my time frame, he's certainly a top 3 coach. But as you start to go back, in the earlier days of football, absolutely, there's a lot of guys that you could make an argument for and put them certainly ahead of him. So, but I don't know, I guess from the past or previous years, as many coaches had to deal with staff turnover as much as maybe what Andy Reid has had to. It seems like every year, your top teams they're gonna pick your coordinators, they're gonna take position coaches, and they're gonna move on. So I think just his ability to adapt year in, year out, putting a staff together shows he's a fantastic leader. He's put his teams at championship levels everywhere he's been and on a consistent basis. So, he's obviously a great leader and builds his staff up, coaches them up to put them in good spots as well as his team. So, I think, certainly like from this era, he's definitely in that top few spots.
Okay. What about you, Mike? And I know you're not into the whole ranking coaches thing, Mike. And, you and I have had these personal conversations a lot. And I know you think Marty Schottenheimer should be in the Hall of Fame. And I think a lot of people would agree and some people would disagree with that too. And I'm sure you would probably say he's even close to top 10 regular season. But Mike, Andy Reid, where does he fall for you?
I always thought Andy Reid was a very good coach when he was at Philadelphia. And I think regardless if he's won these last 2, if he did not win these last 2 Super Bowls at Kansas City, I still think he's, one of the all-time great coaches. I think a lot of people base greatness on, did they win the Super Bowl? Did they win the NBA title? There's a lot of NBA players and coaches, great players, great coaches that never won a title. they're still Hall of Famers. I mean, there's a lot of NFL great players, great coaches, not just Marty Schottenheimer. There's been other coaches that have really been good coaches in the NFL, just could not get there and get that big win. But in my book, winning the Super Bowl does not, to me, guarantee that guy was an all-time great coach. They were for that year, but I thought Andy Reid was a great coach before he was winning Super Bowls when he was with the Eagles. So if he loses this game Sunday, he's still, a top 10 or 20 coach of all time, in my opinion.
Sure. Well, and how you've been around the game a long time. You've seen the innovation and you've seen the changes, and you've worked with a lot of people and coached, number one draft pick in the NFL and numerous, football players that have went on to have successful careers in the NFL and got to know a lot of NFL coaches. What would you say about Andy Reid's ranking on this?
Well, I'm going to go back to my experience a little bit, because we built the air raid offense off of Lavelle Edwards, Mouse Davis, and Bill Walsh. I just blatantly stole ideas from those three guys. And I did it over a series of years. The only smart thing I did is I kept going back to those three guys. I didn't go to anybody else to screw me up. So that's how it got built. That's how Mike Leach had a career. That's how Dana Holgerson had a career. That's how Sonny Dykes has had a career. It's how Neil Brown's had a career. All these guys, Chris Hatcher, they've all had careers because of that. And Andy, to me, is in the top 5 because he was trained by Lavelle Edwards. And it has shown, as I've seen this over decades now, because I started going to BYU in 1987 to study. In 1985, I was the offensive coordinator at UTEP, and we beat them when they were the number 1 team in the nation. And so they invited me to come visit. So I took a high school job in Texas, and then I went up there and visited every year for about 10 years, twice a year. And so I saw what Lavelle was doing. Andy Reid winning a 3rd Super Bowl will be a tribute to Lavelle Edwards. And that's the way I feel. And, I hope he can pull it off. I do. But he's definitely in the top 5. I mean, how can you, if you win 3 Super Bowls in a row, who else has done that?
Sure. That's a great point. And I think if I don't go on, I'm not going to go on another tangent here to save everybody the time. But I would say probably if I'm going to rank my top 5, and then we're going to go on to the next question, I'm going to say Belichick is 1. I got to say Don Shula is probably 2. The man had success with the Baltimore Colts and the Miami Dolphins, and had the only undefeated team in NFL history, and won back-to-back Super Bowls. Granted, he had a lot of great players, but he had the no-name defense, and Zonka and those guys too. So I would say, he's probably right there. I would say Landry is 3 because he built the Cowboys to what they are today is off the back of Tom Landry. I would probably have to say Vince Lombardi is 4. I mean, it is Vince Lombardi. It's
who you're
hard
not
to argue.
mentioning, Fiddy, is Weeb Eubanks.
Weeb Eubanks, great coach.
He won the NFL championship at Baltimore, and then he went to the New York Jets, who were the New York Titans before he went there.
Oh,
who were the most pathetic team in pro football. And then in what, 3 or 4 years, he has Joe Namath and wins the Super Bowl when nobody thinks the AFL can do that. I'm the only one old enough to remember all this, but Weeb Eubanks was a brilliant coach and a brilliant guy. He needs to be ranked in there somewhere. But
you know what? I didn't even think of him, Coach Mumme. And you know what? I'm a Jets fan. I've been a Jets fan my whole life, and I've suffered being a Jets fan my whole life.
Well, you suffered ever since Weeb retired.
That's valid. But I would say, he's up there. But to me, Andy Reid's probably number 5. I would say he's probably number 5 in there. I just think it's really hard to say right now he could be better than those other guys just because of the longevity also with one team of Landry, and Don Shula. But it was great point on that. as well. Mike, you going to throw something in here?
Yeah, I was going to tell Coach Mumme. I remember that. I cried as a kid. My dad was an NFL guy.
Yeah.
When the Jets beat them that day, it was a devastating blow to the NFL. I was like 9 years old. I cried like a baby. Today, I think it's great, but at the time,
Oh yeah. A terrible loss. Weeb was great at being simple in terms of offense, and so his players always knew exactly what to do. And when Namath made all his famous statements, before the game that we're going to win, he knew that because they knew they were exactly what to do in any situation against the Colts. And of course, we had coached the Colts a few years before, so I mean, it wasn't like he didn't know the personnel.
We'll go to the next question, but a young Jets assistant was the legendary Buddy Ryan, the father of Rex Ryan,
right.
On that team, and Rob Ryan as well. And man, I wish Rex Ryan would have got the Jets job again this year.
That would have been awesome. But Rob and I were roommates for a month in a spring league, and every night we drank beer and argued over what we were going to do each other the next day, and I learned so much about the 46 defense from Rob. He is a great coach, and I'm glad he went out there with Lincoln Riley to USC. I'm glad to see him out there. It's going to help them immensely.
Yeah, no, that's great. See, you have Coach Mumme on, and we find out all types of coaching stories. So I'm glad everybody, gets to hear this. This is a funner question though for everybody. So taking the game out of the equation, right? Taking the game out of the equation. What are you more looking forward to? The halftime show or all the commercials? Bill?
Commercials for me. Just there's different varieties. I feel like the halftime shows hit or miss. I feel like varying opinions always on that, but the commercials I think are always kind of funny, keep you engaged, keep you kind of tied in. So I'll say commercial.
Okay. What about you, Jose?
I like the music, not so much the performances, if that makes sense. The music's good, but I'm always a commercial guy because they always make me laugh. So I'm a sucker for the commercials.
What about you, Coach Barth?
Definitely commercials.
What about you, Mike?
Fiddy, I'm all about the game. Commercials, I'll go to the bathroom or get something to eat. At halftime, I'll go outside or do something, and all I care about is the game.
That's great, Mike. What about you, Coach Mumme?
I'm definitely with Mike. We're both old, and so we have to go to the bathroom a lot. Commercials provide that. Occasionally, I come in and catch the end of one funny one and think, oh, well, I should have seen that. Would have been funny. And at halftime, I definitely skip because we can either eat or whatever.
Okay, I always like the commercials. They used to do all those like Budweiser horse commercials.
No, those
are always great. They're playing football, and the one horse he gets like left out, and they have the dog train him like Rocky, and he's running with the train tied to him and all that stuff. So big Rocky fan. Had my Rocky mug on with my hat. Here today, looked like I was going boxing or something. So one of the final two questions I want to ask you guys is this. First one, Bill, we're going to go with you. Would the Eagles still be here without Saquon Barkley?
No.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, it's so tough to get here, and I think he's just been such a pivotal part of the team all year long. You look at the regular season, obviously, just kind of built that offense through him this year. So, I don't know, tough to say, but I think he's been that pivotal that I'll have to say no.
Okay. Jose, what would you say on this?
Absolutely not. No. I mean, Jalen Hurts isn't enough to carry that team. I mean, that's why they had to get A.J. Brown, and they got Smith as a receiver. I mean, and you can throw the ball all day, but, you get down to that end zone, and Coach Mumme can tell you it's like putting a watermelon in a bunny hole. You got to be able to run the ball. And now you got a guy who I'm shocked the Giants staff is still there by letting him go away. And you got I'm not going to say a generational player, but he's had a generational season,
No question.
and for him to go there and take It's almost reminiscent to me of watching Favre when he played with Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson was the most popular guy with the Vikings for however long he was there until Favre got there. And anybody who's coached knows if you're going to play them, you're going to load the box. Favre's going to kill you. You back off. Adrian's going to kill you. And that's what you got with Philadelphia. And so, I don't know how much money Saquon is making, but Jalen Hurts needs to share some of his millions with him because he would not be there again without him.
No question.
Coach Barth, I'm curious to hear from you because if I'm not mistaken, you went to college as a running back and transitioned to receiver. So I'm kind of curious to hear from like the offensive perspective here of you. Would Saquon, would the Eagles be there without Saquon or not?
Well, I hate to disappoint you, but I definitely agree with Bill and Jose. I think their offensive line is definitely strong. One of the best in the top in the league. Jalen Hurts certainly a quality quarterback, talented receiving core, but at the end of the day, they've relied on Saquon to do a lot of the work for them and to get the big yards, make big plays. I don't think you can just plug any other running back in behind him and have the same success. I mean, he is a true talent that has separated himself from others in the league, obviously, and it's I don't think that they'd be there without him.
And I was right on that. Didn't you go to college as a running back and then went to receiver?
I did. About 2 weeks into camp, we had a guy get hurt, and they moved me out, and ended up being a good situation for me.
And a great situation for Eureka football. Look up everybody. Kurt Barth, Hall of Famer for Eureka College. Shout out to that. Multiple-time 1,000-yard receiver, Hall of Famer, and multiple-time All-American. So a little shout-out for Coach Barth there. He's too humble to admit that, but I'll shout you out, Coach, for you. So
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mike, what do you say about this? Are the Eagles there with out Saquon?
I don't think so. You never know. I think they could run the ball to a certain extent with whoever they have there, but not like they are with him, the way he's playing right now. He was great with the Giants. It's no surprise what he's doing with the Eagles. And so I'd say no. And when you get back to Coach Barth, you have to, he had one of the best NCAA Division III running backs of all time there for when my daughter played volleyball at Eureka and knows Coach Barth. And when you get back to him, ask him about how many yards and how many touchdowns his great running back had, which probably 3 years ago.
Well, you know what, Mike? I actually know that because Lee Anthony was a guest on this show, courtesy of Kurt Barth's nephew, Drew, getting him on for us. So, there you go with the Eureka connection right there. Definitely know. And I believe Lee Anthony's still playing overseas. Last I knew, he was like in Finland playing, I believe. So, Coach Mumme, what do you say? I already know the answer because you said it, but are the Eagles there without Barkley?
No, not at all. And I agree with what everything's been said. It was kind of weird. The Eagles knew how to use Saquon because they had Jalen. At the Giants, they had Saquon, but they had a guy who couldn't do what Jalen could do. And so now when you play the Eagles, you have to worry about two running backs in a four-wide situation. So defensively, those coordinators they're pulling their hair out. They really are. And I'm sure Kansas City's doing that tonight. But no, I agree with what everybody else said, and that's why I picked the Eagles. I like I told you before, my heartstring is really with the Chiefs, but I'm picking the Eagles because I just think they have the revenge factor in their minds. You have the Jalen Hurts, I want to be in the elite quarterback factor in their minds. And they have Saquon Barkley. And the Chiefs don't.
That's fair. The last one here, I'm gonna give my answer first, let you guys think about this. But would the Chiefs, let me rephrase this, Who is literally the most important person for the Chiefs and the reason they're here? Is it Mahomes at the quarterback? Is it Andy Reid as the head coach? Or is it Steve Spagnuolo, the 4-time Super Bowl champion defensive coordinator, making this thing go? Out of those three guys, who is the reason the Chiefs are who they are if you think about replacing one of them? I'm going to say it's Andy Reid, because without Andy Reid, these guys aren't who they are. The guys that have left Andy Reid's team and have become head coaches as assistants have now come back because they couldn't make it. That is the way that I can tell that Andy Reid has had total control over that team. But Spagnuolo is pretty close because he is a 4-time winning Super Bowl champion defensive coordinator. Bill, what do you say on this? Those three guys, Mahomes, Spags, Reid, who makes this thing go?
This is the age-old tough question, going back to like Brady, Belichick, and like what really matters. I'm going to say Mahomes here. And I'm going to say because you look at Andy Reid's career kind of coming from Philadelphia, he's always been great. But I think when you get that top-tier generational type quarterback, they're able to just find a way to win the game at the end when the game really matters. Big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games. So I think that's what's kind of made them into the Super Bowl winning kind of franchise recently is with Mahomes. I think would have had great teams and may have been around there without him, but he kind of gets I just think kind of puts him over the top, gets those Super Bowls done because he just makes it happen in the game.
What do you say, Jose?
I say Mahomes. And as a coach, I was told there's good coaches, but the good coaches always, like they said, there's great players and good coaches let great players be great. And you look at Andy Reid, I mean, he's had Alex Smith, who was a good quarterback. He had Donovan McNabb, good quarterback, and he did nothing close to what he's doing with Pat Mahomes. And I just think, when you're a beneficiary of talent, Nick Sirianni, we just talked about him, how does he rank as a coach? But he was a beneficiary of having somebody lace his team, with some good talent. I mean, it reminds me of Matt LaFleur. He fell into the Packers with Aaron Rodgers and now, Jordan Love. There's not a lot of struggle there. I mean, you basically go there not to screw it up. And I remember hearing an interview with Andy Reid talking about that he's still the same guy. He's still the same guy calling, some plays, but he's got a different tool with Patrick Mahomes, who's a totally different quarterback than Alex Smith and Donovan McNabb. And when you say that, I mean, is his offense the same? Was he running the same things with Donovan McNabb as he is with Patrick Mahomes? And the answer is no. It isn't. He's not running these backwards passes and these flips and then all the. No, you didn't see Donovan McNabb do that. And so that's why I said it's players. The league is made up of players, and that's all. I've always been behind that. And I think great coaches, let great players be great as opposed to try to change them. So that's my take on it.
Sure, that's valid. And it goes back to my Mike Tomlin thing. He inherited Big Ben.
Correct.
He inherited all those great players.
Right.
Mike Tomlin didn't have any say in any of that. He inherited all of them. They were drafted by Cowher. There's my rant again. I
tapped the stake on the head with that one, didn't I?
And if anything, if he ever does get fired, which hopefully next year he does, tell my guy Hines Ward, love Hines Ward. I know that's your buddy. Tell him to go be the Steelers head coach.
Oh, he wants to
run it back full circle.
He wants to be. Trust me, he does.
So, that's just fun fact right there. Jose coached with Hines Ward for a few years, and Hines Ward, former New York Jets assistant coach. So, Coach Barth, you've been a head coach for, a long time on, numerous levels, and you've had some record-setting players, and you've had some great, assistant coaches, and you're a great head coach yourself. So, in your opinion, where is this falling with the Eagles? Is it Spags as a defensive coordinator? Is it Andy Reid, or is it Mahomes?
Well, I think it kind of goes back to the first question we had, who the X factor was for the teams or for the game even. And Mahomes was brought up. And, I certainly think, a coach's job is to put the guys in the right spots, give them opportunities. But at the end of the day, the guys on the field have to make a play. And Mahomes has done that in multiple crunch situations, throughout his career. So, I think I would rest with him.
Okay. All right, Mike, you're up. Give me your basketball analogy on this, Mike. Give me your basketball analogy. I know you're gonna pull one out here, and I can't wait to hear it.
This would be a basic answer, Fiddy. I say Mahomes, he pulls out plays at the end of the games, but I want to say that when their offense struggled the first half of the year, like their defense has been the best it's been, I think, this year. If you're giving Spagnuolo the credit or the players, whoever, but the Chiefs' defense is the first 8-10 games is what pulled them through when the Chiefs' offense was kind of struggling at that time. Now they're playing better, and they got the combination, good defense and Mahomes. The offense is clicking. So I don't know if I really answered your question, but I know their defense has been the best it's been this year.
No, that's valid, Mike. And Mike, I want to throw two quick basketball things out to you. We're going to go to Hal, and then we're going to finish this up. So, number one, Mike, in your opinion, does Pat Riley win those championships with the Lakers with Magic Johnson? If he doesn't have Magic, does he still win those titles?
No way.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know with that. And the second thing is, Mike, I believe Jose, I have this story correct, but Jose played a little bit of basketball out in Phoenix one time with your guy Dan Mallory. Is that how you say his name?
Marley. Dan Marley.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike's a big fan. Jose got to play some pickup with him a couple times.
Dan Marley, Barkley, KJ, and it was a great time. And what I was going to say really quick was, being a coordinator, play caller, good coaches call good plays. Great coaches call on players. And Andy Reid calls on. I mean, let's be real. On when they played Buffalo on fourth down, you knew Patrick Mahomes was going to bootleg that ball. He wasn't going to give it to anybody, and that's calling on a player, not a play. But that's why he's an X factor to me. But
that's fair.
That's just my take. Sorry.
No, that's fair. Just one other thing too. Andy Reid though has in all honesty had great defensive coordinators. Spags. He had Sean McDermott, head coach of the Buffalo Bills, and rest in peace, Jim Johnson from the Eagles for a long time as well. So Andy Reid's also always had great defensive coordinators. So Hal, you're going to round this out on this one if you're still there.
No,
is
I'm
it
still
Andy?
here.
Okay, is it Andy Reid? Is it Spags? Is it
Well,
is it
I think
Mahomes?
we're talking about for this game, right?
Making this whole thing go, not just this game, the season, and this run that they've had.
Well, to win the Super Bowl, it's on Spags because he has to get Philadelphia off the field. And you got Saquon, and you got Jalen, and you got the revenge factor in their minds. And then you got Kansas City, and you got it's not a revenge factor. It's we can be the only ones to have ever done this factor. So it comes down to between Jalen and Patrick. So if Spags can get Philadelphia off the field 3 times in the first half and 2 or 3 times in the second half, and I'm talking like 3 and outs or something, then Patrick wins.
Okay.
If he can't do that, then Jalen and Saquon are going to wear them out. And I don't know what the score would be from that, but if they wear them out, it could be a 2-score game,
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that, and thank you to all of you for coming on this show. It's been a lot of fun talking about the Super Bowl, previewing the big game here coming up between the Eagles and the Chiefs. Hearing a lot of different sides, hearing a lot of funny stories, going off on some tangents, and it's all what About Ride Home Rants is for the listeners out there. To the legends of the show, the legendary Hal Mumme. And everything that you've done in your career, Coach. Thank you for being on.
No, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
Legendary Mike Worrell for being on, giving the basketball perspective of things. The All-American Kurt Barth and all his numerous success. Olympic hopeful Jose Jefferson, the new general manager of the FIU football team, and the legend Bill Stoy, Mr. Westside Cleveland himself, out here spinning all the news for us, knowing all the things about all the things. So that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Ride Home Rants podcast. As always, if you enjoyed the show, be a friend and tell a friend. And if you didn't like it, tell them anyways, because I bet they like it just because you didn't. This is Fiddy signing off. We'll see you next week.
Thanks.
The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by W Energy. Energy drinks made for gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. For gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. Go to the link in the description where you can find the best energy drinks out there. Less caffeine than a cup of coffee. Also, no jitters and no crash afterwards. Use the promo code Mike Bono and get yourself 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by my favorite sponsor of the show, and that is Shankit Golf. Golf apparel made for the everyday golfer. We might not go out and shoot a 6 under par. We're probably going to shoot a 6 over par, but this is going to give us the gear that's going to help us rock it on and off of the course. Go to the link in the bio, use the promo code Mike Bono, and get yourself 10% off there as well.